People come to us saying, can I subdivide? Can my property be subdivided? It's a very tricky question, but it's a very simple question at the same time. In order to find out if your property can be subdivided, you've got to look at a few key aspects. Those key aspects are basically your zoning, your land size, the specifics to your property. Is it a slopey site? Is it an irregular shape? Is it a corner block? Your services is very important. What sort of services are on the site or near the site? Your sewer, your water, power, they're critical elements to work out. And lastly, your policy. And your policy can be broken into two parts, your local government policy and your state government policy. Those are the sort of overarching aspects of the property that need to be investigated, need to be looked at to determine if that property can be subdivided. First 2 points that I raised, your land size and your zoning, the relationship between those two key points, that will determine ultimately if your property can be subdivided. Your R code is a density. Traditionally, it's an amount of houses per hectare of land. So if you have an R20 site, then traditionally your yield for that suburb would be 20 lots per hectare. A more modern style of planning is now treated, your subdivision yield is looked at as an average. So for example, an R20 site, we work on an average of 450 square metres. An R30 site would be 300 square metres. An R40 site would be 220 square metres. So depending on what your density is and the size of your land, there's a relationship between those two, and that would ultimately determine your yield. That's, I guess, the number one key element of what's your zoning, what's your land size, and then all those other issues come into play once we determine your yield, your servicing, your policy and all those other specifics. And then the specifics that I mentioned, your services, if you're going to retain a house on the property, where is that house positioned on the property? Do you have sufficient access down the side of that house to create a block at the rear? All of those little specifics need to be looked at in detail. So then depending on the development type you're doing, you may need to have things like visitor car parking or a pedestrian footpath. There's a laneway to the rear. That laneway may need to be constructed. It might be a council policy. A really important aspect that a lot of people don't consider is obviously the northern orientation, that aspect for northern or winter sun. So it's important to factor that in as well. So if you've got a house that's in the middle of the property, you're going to put your driveway on the left or on the right. Little specifics like that, which not many people think are important, are actually quite important to get right up front. So once you've embarked on the subdivision and you're going through that process, it's very difficult to backtrack. So all of those issues you want to get right up front.